Yo, hold on. Let me just get ready first, cause I didn't get anything ready, pretty much. Okay, so I have this here. Let me put on some music. Well, this will work. Okay, cool. I don't know how loud everything is. You're gonna have to tell me if like how loud or you know quiet things are. Okay. Oh yeah, and I also have what's it called again? What's that? No, that, I'm so like not prepared every single time. Okay, fuck. This is the one. Okay. Alright. What's the link? I'm getting ready, don't worry. Alright. Yeah. Just do that. Okay. Should be ready soon. Okay. Cool. That works. What's that? Yeah, that's what it is. Okay. Oh, fuck. It's bright. It kind of fucking hangover and stuff, but you know, we'll make it work. So, what are we doing today? The idea is that the idea is what's in your taskbar? Huh? My taskbar? Oh, like these guys there. It's hold on. Let me just. I'm so fucking not ready. It's something called Stream Avatar, and like it's green screen. And it's like something that connects. It's not something I made personally, but it's fun. And you can like interact with them and stuff. And I just have that running in the back of my computer so that you know characters can interact. I guess I don't know. Yeah. Okay. So what are we doing? The idea is that I have an idea for a project, and a friend of mine, who's well you, Hyman, wanted to know how I usually go about architecturing projects, and I thought this was a good opportunity. Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's what I wanted to know. There you go. Is that better? Maybe better? I don't know. And the idea is that will make the architecture of this game. Yeah. So, is the audio better? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cause I don't remember. I think I disabled audio docking. Oh, that's why. Actually, yeah. Never mind that. Okay. And also I'm recording this so that I can upload it to YouTube and like I don't know, don't lose it because it feels like you know it could help. Okay. So the idea for this game is I actually okay I don't want to listen to the music. So how I usually the first step to making the project architecture I feel is to understand the project you want to make. And so for that, I like to you know just to have an idea of okay, cool. How like how the game is structured. So I'll just you know explain rapidly what the game is so that we all start on equal foot. So the idea of this game is to be, so it's called Nat One Night for natural one, you know. And the idea is that it's a game, a local multiplayer game that you play over the course of an entire party. So like a game can be, I don't know, 3 hours long or something. And yeah, so this is a game that you play in the background, and it kind of just um, how do I say that? Calls the player. You'll get it. So the idea is that there is three parts of this game. So you have your intro and the like actual game and the ending. And so in these three parts, so here you at the very beginning you take every player, right, and you want them to choose names and classes. I already have the design for the game. Where is it? Here. I already like did a small game design document. Maybe I should have used that actually to explain what I'm doing. Yeah, right. So the idea is player take part in a real-time social adventuring during an actual IRL party, and every few minutes a new event presents choices, dilemmas, opportunities for betrayal. Okay. Yeah, that's basically it. And so 4 to 8 player, maybe less actually. Like I wouldn't mind doing 2 or even 1. And voilà, everyone picks a name, a class, and a skin at the start. So yeah, first, I don't know why I was doing this in Paint actually. I already have the design here. Okay, first, everyone just like picks the class and whatever. There's three classes. We'll get to that later. And we can like set up how the game will be, how long it will take, how often do you want events? Like, do you want it to be an actual, well, you know, active game, almost something that happens in the background of your party? How many HP do you have? How random do you want the frequency of the events to be? That kind of stuff. And also the events should have tags. We'll get into that in a bit. And so the active phase is the actual game. So once you've set up your game and the players and whatnot, that's what it will be. So the idea of the game is that it's in a fantasy, fantasy setting, and you're trying to get to a tavern to get wasted, basically, like your party is trying to get to a tavern. And so on the way you will encounter events, and these events can be like a lot of different things. Pretty much think events in games like FTL, Faster Than Light, that kind of stuff. And they can happen to one person or to the entirety of the group. And the idea is that you will have to make choices to, well, you know, how do I put this? To get out of this. Ah, dégage de là, espèce de sale merde. Report, spam, terrorism. Yeah, sure. Spam. There you go. Non, mais dégage. Yeah, okay, cool. Alright. And can't I block? Yeah, get the fuck out. How the fuck does moderation on Twitch work? I forgot. I keep on forgetting every single time. Get the fuck out of here. How? Oh, for fuck's sake, there it is. Okay, cool. Oh, you didn't see it? Because I kept seeing it in my chat. Okay, sorry. But the it's cool. I managed to. Okay, sorry. Um, so where was I? Okay, yeah. And for these events, some of them require a dice roll for from the players. Based on statistics, depending on the class, you will have different statistics. So we have three, basically like strength, intelligence, and charisma, and classes with different statistics. Um, and the idea is, for instance, an example of an event could be, uh, so player one went further into the woods and encountered wolf. Do they want to uh, like roll a strength check to fight the wolf, or you can just like I guess ask everyone in the party to roll a charisma check to scare the wolf, or you can just send someone else fight the wolf. But you get to choose. And so, for instance, if anyone involved would lose this dice roll, they would lose a health point. Um, and so you can pretty much betray your party members if it like helps you survive. And I wanted to have that kind of atmosphere for betrayal, but like funny, and it's not a big deal if you die because it's party game. Plus you get like I've thought of maybe like resurrecting you as a ghost, and I think I'll do that. It's probably written somewhere in there, and you just don't get anything very different really, but just I'm getting a lot. Sorry, I'm still kind of hungover. I'm not the best at explaining things right now. And yeah, if there's a timer on decisions, and if the response isn't given in time, there's a random outcome, so that the game doesn't lock itself if someone isn't there or that kind of stuff. And so at the end, depending on how many players are dead, you get a different ending. So, well, very basic stuff. So if everyone is alive, everyone's happy, or if some of them died, that kind of stuff. And yeah, ideally, I'd like to have stats for most betrayed or that kind of stuff for like kind of how it's done in CS:GO in the endings. Just go to ending screen. You have like statistics with like that. Wonderful. Can't I? That's fucking great. Okay. Well, yeah, they basically have like this guy is the one who throw the more, I don't know, like Molotov cocktail, that kind of stuff. Yeah, pretty much. Highlight. So yeah, something like that. What else is there? So I explained the dice roll already, the stats. So yeah, everyone starts with a set amount of HP, and how do I say that? Well, can lose them if they lose at certain events. What else is there? Yeah, so events should have tags. So the idea is that the events. I don't really have a tone set for the game yet, but maybe something like some truth or dares or that kind of stuff that you can disable at the very start of the game. So events should have tags for that reason. Or like I don't know, if you're not comfortable with alcohol, you can disable things relating to alcohol, I guess, so something like that. What's that again? Yeah, so this is what events will need to be built, basically. So the amount of player you want to target, what's like the description of the event. Yeah, trigger prerequisite if there's a ghost or someone is at 1 HP or yeah, depending on the tags. that kind of stuff. If it has a stat check with a like different outcomes, is it like a group event or a solo event or that kind of stuff? Like yeah, what's the outcome basically, and maybe something IRL that you have to do, like I don't know, down a shot or something. Okay. I'm not really clear on how I'll link the outcomes to the events, and that's something I'd like to think about today, actually. And yeah, so this is basically like just more stuff that's not really relevant to architecture right now. So now I get you probably have pretty much a good idea of the game, I guess. So if you have questions, like just don't ask it. No, don't hesitate to ask it. But now, okay. So we already know that I'll make a small diagram of the different parts of the game. So we first have the start, then the game, then the... Fuck, dude. Can't I just have white fucking arrows by default? That sucks. Style? No, I don't like that. Well, okay, anyway. Okay. So first, you have the setup phase, the game phase, and the end phase. So, during the setup phase, we will need... Yeah, but like, it hurts my eyes, dude. I don't like it. So during the setup phase, we will need something to... So yeah, we will need to set up attributes for the games. This includes event tags. This includes... What else does it include? Well, like game length. What else? Oh yeah, event frequency. Okay, cool. And also, we also need to set up... Fuck. Set up players with name, character, and skins. Okay, cool. So, and in the game phase, we will use whatever we set up here in this phase. So from a like, so yeah, sorry, I didn't precise that earlier, but the idea is to make the game in Unity, because that's the engine I know best, and like it just would work, I guess. Yeah, and so with this, so we now it's time to get into how to architecture the code. So from what we know we will need, we would need a game setting scriptable object. So what a scriptable object is a class that we can that is used to usually store data. Yeah, let me see if I can find something for you. Yeah, so the idea is that you can reference them pretty easily. Do you have an example? Yeah, one of those. Stuff that you can use to No, just data, not necessarily like data sets. Like well, this is a data set already. It's a list of data, and the idea is that you can the difference with a normal class is that you can well, the main difference is that you can serialize it, I think it's called, and this allows you to have one like in your Unity project that are pre-made. Uh, and this would help us because it's easier to set up test games like this. So yeah, we will do that. And in here, so we would need. Okay, and so what? So what you usually what I'm doing right now is called pseudo UML. So you may have heard of UML diagrams. It's pretty much that, but I don't know what I'm doing. uh, okay, cool. And so you have your variables here, and you have your methods here. And it helps you kind of organizing. So we already know that we are going to need game settings, and I'm wondering if we want the data of the players in the game settings or only like these data, and I'm thinking we probably do. Oops, sorry. Okay. Now, we also need to think about how we will reference this to other stuff. Like for instance, we will probably need this in the game scene. And to think about that, we also need to think about how our scenes will be organized. So I already have an idea of how it will be done, but I'll talk about it a bit later because I think it's not something that we need to concern with right now. Because like the idea I have for that will already work. So in this, we will need a float for the game length. I will not do a fully complete UML diagrams because it will be a bit overkill, and it still is because like this is something I do less than I used to because I kind of have a better idea of how I go about doing that kind of things. But yeah. And what else do we need? Yeah, so we will need. Okay, yeah, that's a good point actually. How do we store event tags? So the idea here would be to have an enum called event tag, right? Or like content tag, and this would have our examples, right? And the idea would be that it could be a flag flag list. I don't remember the attribute actually. Unity flag attribute. Yeah, and the idea is that it's an enum, and you can select several things from the enum, right? Okay. So for instance, yeah, this is a good example. And so for instance, you like reach out all the needs using necessary here since you're only one. Yeah. Okay. So UML can help to detect architectural problems early on. Do I have an example? For instance, yeah, if you need to have Okay, I have an example. For Excellencio, the game I worked on 2 years ago already? Shit, okay. I needed to have a class that generated textures from a string input, right? So I had the word, yeah. I had the word C, for instance, and I needed it to create a texture with the word C. Wonderful. Okay, cool. However, sorry, I gotta finish this before. It's important. Okay. And so and the idea would be that I would take this texture and apply it to something in the environment. And this worked, but then I had to think about how I would. This is fairly cut and dry, right? And how I would get this string would be, well, it's the player who inputted this, so we don't have to think too much about it. We actually did, because in here, we need to think about in which language the game is, for instance, and this helps you like know where you will have this kind of in-betweens between the different parts of your code. Yeah. So for instance here, actually, in here we are missing the parsing. Like for instance, if the player wrote stuff with characters that we are not able to translate as letters, we would remove them, and we would try to see if the word they wrote was in our dictionary of words that we allowed, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, and we did this, and we did that, and we translated it, and then we sent it, but we didn't just take what the player entered and transformed it to a texture, is what I'm trying to say. And so we had to kind of build something sustainable. And it also helps you. So when you want to program something, a project, you kind of want to have different bits of logic that are separate, because you want to be able to reuse them somewhere else. For instance, the same example actually. Okay, so I had so the artist on this project, Loris. So I when I did the texture generation thing, so C, he said that yeah, it's cool, but I would like to have a way to have textures that are that I can use in for testing, right? That I can just plug into my shaders so that I can test like easily. And so the way if I had put the texture generation logic within like the objects that needed it, it wouldn't have worked. Like it would have been a pain to make tools for that. However, since the texture generation logic was a separate thing from the thing that needed the word generation logic, I could just have my tool, just make my tool and call this logic and get the texture back, and Loris could use it like easily, which is the main interest of splitting logic. Another like general good principle is that you want to separate data from logic. So for instance, this works especially well with UI. For instance, if you want to have a UI displaying the score in a football match, for instance, so like team A scored 2 and team B scored 1, I don't know, you don't want. So one way you could do it is have your UI script, and this UI script can just change the value. And so, sorry, you say this UI, team A scored a goal, and so you have a value team A score that starts at 0 and that increases, every goal. And so you do AR score plus equals 1, and then you do score A team equals 2. So this could theoretically work, but it's actually not very good practice. And so usually, because the reason is that your score is supposedly needed at other places than the UI only. For instance, if you want to check which team won at the end of the match, right? So ideally, what you want is to have the same script that is used to score to display the UI, but simply have what is called event-based programming. In that case, for UI, it works especially well. And what this is oops, is you will have somewhere in your project the data of the score, right? So you have the data here, and this is the UI, and you'll have your game manager, for instance. And let's say the game manager is responsible for handling scores. So GM. Cool. So when there's a goal, the game manager will update the data. So team A score plus equals 1. And then it will call what's called an event. And an event is one way to view it is a method that you can call and you don't know who is listening to it or if anyone is listening to it. In this case, you will call an event called, I don't know, onScore updated, and the UI will, what? Raise or unraise? I don't know what you're talking about, sorry. Like what's the sentence that you didn't get? So that ask real objects before incrementing value. So hold on, you talking about the score or something else, or the events? Like, yeah, but I don't know what you mean by raise or unraise, is what I'm trying to say. Okay. Anyway, the idea is, so you will call an event called onScore updated, and so the UI is listening to the game manager onScore updated, and when onScore updated is called, it will go read the data to know what the new score is and update the data, like the score, according to the data. But then the score is only stored here. And if the game manager needs to know at the end of the game what the score is, it can just, you know, get it from the data. So that's how event programming works, basically, and why it's a good practice to split logic and data. So yeah, so back to what we were doing. Which is why, but actually, I started to separate. So this is data, right? We won't really have a lot of logic in it, if any. So yeah, and we were starting to think about how to store data. And to store event tags. So this will be a flag, and will be like, I don't know, truth or dare. And I don't know, like alcohol, or I don't know, like IRL stuff, and I don't know, like and any other one, strength check, for instance. Like these are just example. Come on, okay. And so we need to have an event. So yeah, we need to store what event tags will be allowed. So selected tags for this game. We need to have a list of players, which begs, like, which leads us to know that we need to have a player class. And in the player class, what do we need? We need to have a name, a skin, a class. Oops. So yeah, in here we need to have an integer for max HP. Oops. An integer for current HP. So yeah, and this is yeah, this will be a player data class, because player will be something else. We'll explain in a bit. And all that kind of stuff, right? You get it. Like and this can also be an enum. And this is enum player class. And so we have a barbarian or fighter, or I don't remember. Barbarian, bard, mage. And so the player data needs to know the classes that it can have, right? And the scriptable object, like the game setting scriptable object, needs to know what this is and what this is, because it's in there, you know? That's how UML works. I never really remember the direction you're supposed to have these arrows, but yeah, you know. And yeah, sorry. One thing I forgot to mention is you always try to avoid cyclic dependencies. So the reason is that it's better, like it's cleaner. For instance, if here game settings knows what the class player data is, but I don't want the reverse to be true. This is true for a variety of reasons that I won't really get into now, but that's something you try to avoid to do. This is also true if I were to have a third class that player data knew. It would be a better idea if I need to have a communication here for the game settings to know this third class instead of the opposite, because we get back into this cyclic dependency, right? So that's something we want to avoid as well. Is the music over? Yeah. Hold on, let me find something. I'm looking for... I have a list of video game music that I want to play. Oh yeah, this one is cool. This is I Was a Teenage Exocolonist. It's a pretty cool game. It's from... I don't know how, from like, I don't know what year it came out, but it's pretty leftist game. I like it. Okay, so back to what we were doing. Players. Okay. I'm thinking. So I'm not going to do all of this because you get the idea, right? And if you don't, just feel free to ask questions, by the way. But now we will do we'll focus on the setup phase for now, because if I were to do the game phase, this would be pretty fucking long. But okay, for the setup phase, we also need to have the logic that controls the data that we just made, right? Oh yeah, and player class. Okay, so which is why we don't have methods, by the way, right now in our classes. It's because we didn't make any logic that would control this. So we would probably need to have a setup phase manager. So this would be a mono behavior. A mono behavior is a script that you can have in a Unity scene, right? And so this would be like game setup manager, for instance. And this one will have a very few variables actually, except for one, I think, which is the game settings scriptable object, which we need to know to set up the settings. You know, update, game settings. So the methods we will have. So this needs to know our game setting, and we already have kind of a clear split here between our logic and our data, right? So there we go. No. Okay, so here's our logic. And here's our data. There we go. Okay, cool. All right. So the division is pretty clear. Can I? Yeah. Is it doing anything? Oh yeah, no. Cool. And for good measure, let's just put it slightly different color. Yeah, cool. Okay, yeah. Okay. And so we will also need to control this. This would probably use UI to do this, right? Because like you want to display, press X to join the game or something, right? So you would have a UI so a game setup screen, I guess, which is also a mana behavior. And this is where you would have the real data, the real logic that would happen. It would originate from here. The way you would do it, I think, is I'll do this for a button to join the game, for instance. So you wouldn't have the reference to the join. The reference to a UI button, which is button join game button. And in the methods, you would have on. So okay, you have two things: the on join game pressed, which is like a void method because it doesn't need to return anything. It's just something we want to do. And this method, we will use what is called like what I explained earlier with events. So buttons in Unity have an event that's called onClick, and then you can subscribe to by doing so here it's the join game button, right? Join game button dot onClicked dot add listener, and then you do yeah, and you have to do something like what's called a lambda. That's not terribly important, but that's just the how it's done in Unity. On join game pressed. So yeah, this would look like that. How the fuck? Okay, this is what it would look like. And so we would like put this. So and sorry, once you called this once, it means that every time this button will trigger onClick, this method will be called. And so we only need to do this in the start method, which is a default Unity method, as you may know. And so we also need to have void start in there to kind of, you know, have a, I guess, yeah, I don't know. So sorry, I'm tired to have. I don't remember where he's going with this. Okay, so this needs to then, yeah, exactly, to initialize. So the idea of the onJoin game pressed button, onJoin game pressed, by the way, onJoin game pressed. this will call another method in the game setup manager that we can call void try add player, for instance. So why try add player and not just add player? The idea is that, for instance, if you already have the max amount of players, you want to try to add one, but if you cannot, you just don't. So, which is why you don't forcibly add a player. And so this would be so yeah, and this implies also that the screen will have to know the setup manager. And so there's a few ways we can go about this. Most, like all of them, basically have events to avoid cyclic dependency. It really depends on your philosophy. This time I think I'll just yeah, I'll have to do game setup manager. Game setup manager. So this will have the UI will have a reference to the manager. And the way we are going to make that happen is by using a design pattern called singleton. So okay, this works like this: public static game setup manager instance. Okay, so what did I just write? Public as a keyword means that the variable is viewable through every single, like by other scripts, basically viewable and editable as well. So this has to be careful. Static means that the variable will have the same value for all of the instances of this script. So if I was to have another game setup manager, you know, this is where like instance will have the same value. And like the idea is that I can do in the, so we also need to have a method to initialize the singleton. So this time we'll use the awake method from Unity, and it would look kind of like this. So instance equals this, right? This just means that I am the instance, but it doesn't really cover edge cases such as if you have a bug, for instance, and you have two managers at the same time. This shouldn't happen, but just in case it does, what people usually do is if instance not equals null, that means like if an instance exists, you create the instance, right? And otherwise you just destroy the game object. And so this is what is usually done. I'm now realizing it's fucking unreadable. Wonderful. So yeah, so this all happens, and this ensures that there cannot be more than one instance. And if a new one tries to like initialize, if the old one exists, it will just destroy itself. Cool. Okay, so the try and add players. So what this will do, the try add player method will do, is take a look at this list, try to see if it's more than the maximum amount of players that exist, that are allowed, sorry. If not, it's gonna add a player, right? It's gonna do players dot add new player data or whatever, and then, you know, it's or if it is, it's just not going to do anything. So this is how I would organize this basically. It's a very simple example, but hopefully you got it. Okay. So, sorry. But there's another whole, more like bigger picture, is how to organize this at the scale of our game, right? Because this is only the setup part. But we need to have uh, yeah, okay. We need to have to when in the game phase we need to know what we did in the setup phase, because otherwise it wouldn't have point. And this is another good reason why we keep the logic separated from the data, is that we can just trash all the logic and keep the data, and if we need the logic, we just bring it back in. So the way I was thinking to do this was to have a main scene that will always be loaded and never unloaded, and then you would have, come on, live a little, okay, and then you would have three scenes: an intro scene, an intro or slash setup scene, a game scene, and a end scene. And so the main scene would have come on, dude. Okay. And so yeah, well, there we go. The main scene would have why isn't it letting me do it? Anyway, the main scene will be responsible for loading the other three scenes or unloading them if needed. And therefore it will need something that can manage pretty much all of the game, right? So this would be our people usually don't do this anymore, really, I think, but I don't really see the harm. This would be our game manager, like overall game manager. And our game manager will have to know about the game setup manager, for instance. Setup manager, right? And all that kind of stuff. And it will be responsible for calling, for like detecting that the intro sequence is done, for instance. Like unloading this scene and loading this scene. So on intro finished, for instance. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Okay, well that's pretty much it, really. And this is how I would go about designing this, I think. I don't think I'll I don't think I'll have anything more to add, I think. Got any questions or remarks or anything like that? Will you have a game state manager to handle timers? Yeah, so for the game phase, the way I would go about it, I think, is to have a like, I don't know how I would call it. Maybe something like game. So game manager is already taken, obviously, but something like game. Actually, naming shit is one of the hardest thing in programming. I don't know who said that. Like, it's a famous quote, but it's a real thing. A game. I don't know. Game phase manager, I guess. Yeah. How did I name the other thing? Game setup manager. Yeah. No, because game state is something else. I'll get into that. But basically, these are game states, right? You're in the state intro, game, or end, right? So it's a state. So yeah. And the game phase manager would be responsible for having like next event time, and next event time would be calculated by knowing. So this guy would know the game settings, right? Okay. Yeah, this guy would know the game settings, and it would calculate next event time, at, like by doing next event time equals time dot time, which means right now, plus like uh like float event delay, you know, plus game settings dot event delay, right? Something like that. And then in the update, I would do if next event time is greater or equals than current time, we invoke the next event. This is how I would do it. Yeah, pretty much. The whole game part would be the hardest thing here, obviously. Yeah, and also game states. Yeah, is what I wanted to say. You can, so it depends on how granular you want to be with it. You could, for instance, in the Pokemon game, it's used a lot in like turn-based game, where you need to know your current state, and it's what called a state machine. It's pretty much how Animator works in Unity. Sorry, Mechanim, which is the animation system. Well, which is just this, you know. It's a state machine, and you can only be in one state at a time. And so for a turn-based game, it would be like player turn, enemy one turn, enemy two turn. That kind of stuff. And this is what game states would be. And so here we could have different game states, such as if you want them to be pretty granular, you can have them in game and have for instance, waiting for event, in event, and that kind of stuff. Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's been about an hour. If you don't have any more questions, I'll just stop it here and upload this to YouTube, I think. But yeah, it's been cool. You good? Cool, no problem. Well then, I'm going to go take a nap, I think, because I'm a bit tired. Cool, yeah, well, that's pretty useful, especially if you're, you know, not the most experienced. It's always good practice to do it, because, like, it helps you think ahead of what kind of problems you will have, basically. And you, like, it's a good exercise, yeah. Well then, see you in school. Goodbye. See you.